How's it going, guys? Akira here, and today we are doing a monthly update of a retro haul. So basically, this is what I picked up for the month of June, right? This is something that I'm gonna try out and see how it is. Show you guys what I got for that month, and I guess we're starting off with June, right? June 2025. Now I know this might come out, after June, within the first week of July. But I'm gonna try to see if in the future I'll upload them like in the last day of the month, But regardless, we're here, episode 1, I guess, of this mini series. And yeah, let's see what we can show off first. Obviously, the big elephant in the room is we got the Switch 2 that came out this month. I already did an unboxing video of that. I did my opinions of that. Week 2, 2 weeks in, what I thought of the console. Perhaps I'll do a 30 days after the console, see what I think after a month. But regardless, yeah, I got the Mario Kart bundle since that one, was the one that was available. And I'm obviously pro physical media, but Mario Kart, it's a game that I know I'm not gonna have trouble finding physical, like at a used retro game store or something down the line. And then, we got a Pro controller because I still don't trust Joy-Cons, and there have been reports of Joy-Con drifting, so I had to get myself a Pro controller. Now, this is like an asterisk, right? So as you guys can see here, these are Youtooz figures for PlayStation characters, right? You got Ratchet and Clank, you got Astrobot, Sly Cooper, and Kratos, right, from God of War. Youtooz announced that they were going to do a PlayStation line back in December for the 30th anniversary. They came out with these 4, and then they, people announced, when they announced it, people begged for Sackboy, and then Sackboy is coming later, and then we have other PlayStation characters like Ellie from Last of Us and the Helldivers 2. So the reason why I said this is an asterisk is because this one came in first. This one came in May, and then these 2 came in June, right? So it's like, an asterisk because this one came in first. But regardless, this all should have come in, and majority came out in June. So we'll just say that they all came out in June, and I want to show it off to you guys. I already pre-ordered the Sackboy one as well, and then the Helldivers 2 one, and I'll do an unboxing for those 2, and I'll eventually get Ellie as well from Last of Us. But yeah, pretty cool. I say these are limited editions, so if you guys are interested in these, do it sooner rather than later, because if, let's say, down the line, 5 years from now, you want them on eBay, they're probably gonna be like $200 each or something. So just so you guys know, get it sooner rather than later. All right. Then I want to show you guys the little I know you guys may know I'm a fan of LittleBigPlanet, right? And a lot of stuff came out in Europe that didn't come out in America, of like, special editions or stuff like that. And LittleBigPlanet karting specifically had a special edition that only came out in PAL territory, as you can see here in Europe. And this never came out in America, so I imported this, right? Because the LBP franchise, LittleBigPlanet, is a franchise where, I kind of want to have like every variant of stuff, whether it is games or their figures, or Funko, because believe it or not, there is a Sackboy Funko, and then the eventual Sackboy Youtooz, right? And other little stuff like figures, right? And I kind of want to get every variant of stuff like that, whether they're Japanese only, American only, Europe only. So I got this, and in Europe they got this, with this like it's kind of like holographic material that you can see. It's kind of like what's made of the cartridge of Majora's Mask, if you've ever played Majora's Mask. And yeah, as you open it here and you see, right, it's like a 3D, like, whoa, look at that. The back is like regular, and then you open it up and it's super cool. It has this really cool stuff. And then you see here the game disc, and here's like the manual and stuff like that, and it's really cool. And it's cool. It's crazy how like the European version and the Japanese version came with like an actual manual, right? But the American one didn't. So it's like, it's like, damn, what the heck? We got the bad end of the stick. But yeah, it's a it's a manual, so it's pretty cool to have this, just another variant to have this. I don't do this with every game, right? For example, I'm not gonna get like, as much as like Mario Galaxy, I'm not gonna get like the American version, the Japanese version, the European version, the Australian version. I only do it with very specific stuff, and LittleBigPlanet is one of them, because it had exclusive variants that came out in each different region that I love to get my hands on and experience them and yeah, add them to the collection, especially franchises that are one of my favorite ones. Right. Then there's this local retro store that I usually check in from time to time, some to see what they have. Basically they're more of like a collectibles in terms of like action figures and like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and wrestling and He-Man and like DC and Marvel, like old school action figures and stuff like that. So that's what basically their stores basically. But they do have a game section, it's smaller, off to the side, and from time to time, they do have some like good stuff, right? Most of the time they have their games are filled with like Assassin's Creed and FIFAs and Call of Duties, but from time to time you see like a good thing. And I managed to snag Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Surprisingly, I never had this game. Growing up, I had the winter one on the DS, and then I eventually got like the Wii U one, the Rio 26. Did I ever play that one? I think I played that one. Yeah, I played that one, and I played the other ones, but like at other people's house. But I guess I never owned the Wii one. And then I ended up finding a Star Fox Adventures, which is pretty cool. Both complete with manual and the inserts and the disc. So I was really happy to find these two. On top of that too, when I went in, I also saw this, and yeah, dude, a very clean. This thing is clean. Parappa the Rapper for the original PlayStation. Dude, look how minty that is. The disc, everything, as you guys can see here. It's very, very, very well maintained. Whoever owned this, the original owner of this, good. He took very good care of this. So I'm very happy to own this, because this is one of those expensive games. He was able to cut me a deal. So shout outs to you. I don't want to say any names. I don't want to dox anyone or anything. But shout outs to that guy, dude. He's pretty cool. But yeah, gave me a deal on Parappa the Rapper, and I snagged these other two games, Star Fox and the Mario and Sonic, at the Olympic Games. Right. So yeah. So moving on, I'm gonna show off the two Xbox 360 games I got. If you guys know, I'm not particularly fond of modern Xbox. I don't like Xbox One, and Series X. I have a One X, but I only get like the exclusives, right? And I only play the exclusives. It's not my main console of choice. I never liked Xbox after the 360, but the 360 and the OG Xbox, I love those consoles, and there are some exclusive games on those consoles, that are getting expensive. And I was like, you know what, let me snag this now before the price goes even up. And one of the games is Jurassic Park, the Telltale games, right? Most of you guys don't know this, but I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. I like the lore. I like the Michael Crichton books. Part of me wishes that one day we get like a full one-on-one adaptation of the original Jurassic Park book as a movie, because the book is very different from the movie. It's way creepier. It's very horror like. I guess I just answered my question why they haven't done it, because it would be like a rated R movie. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, so I anything that expands in the Jurassic Park lore, and especially Telltale games and stuff like that, I'm a fan of. So I snagged a copy of this. I got it on eBay because in person, nobody had this game. This is one of those rare games. This game usually goes for like $50 to $60. It's creeping into like the $70, and I was able to snag it for $40. So I'm happy about that. So I found it on eBay. It's nothing like you don't. I never seen this game. I never seen this game in person. So I was like, I had to resort to eBay for that. And then the other one that thank God I waited for is Blue Dragon. Now last year when the Xbox 360 store was shutting down, Blue Dragon was one of those games, because most of the games that skyrocketed were the Xbox 360 exclusives, and this was one of those games that I think at its peak was like $50 if I recall, maybe even higher, I don't know, but I remember seeing this game everywhere, $50, whether it was at a retro game store or at the store that I told you, where I got Parappa the Rapper, or even online on eBay and Mercari. It was like 50, hovering around the 50 mark. And even GameStop too, when they sell the retro stuff on GameStop, it was like $49.99, stuff like that. So I was like, no, let me do it. And then I guess a year later, this thing went back down to 20. So hey, I snagged it for $20. So I'm happy I waited. And it's these are in mint conditions too. So that's pretty cool. Both of these were from eBay, mind you. So that is pretty cool. I had to go into the web to do that. Then usually I do groceries. Everybody does grocery shopping, and from time to time, when I go to Walmart or Target, I check the video game section just in case there's any sales, right? Surprisingly, there's never a sale in the Nintendo section, so I move along. I still look because I'm like, maybe one day, but no, there's never a sale. But my stubborn ass still looks every time, and then I move on. I look in the PlayStation section, and there was, and I was able to snag Capcom Fighting Collection for $20, brand new at Walmart. I guess they were having a sale on this game, or they marked it down or whatever, but it was brand new. What the codes that were inside for like the extra content, brand new, unused. So yeah, $20 for this brand new was crazy, because I know this is actually getting kind of expensive, because I believe these aren't printed anymore. So and especially since these are old school compilation of old school Capcom games, that individually those Capcom games are hard to find and are expensive on eBay. It's like, yeah, this is probably gonna get expensive really well too, kind of like the Marvel vs. Capcom collection that they did recently. And then yeah, so that's pretty much for that. This one I found it luckily at a GameStop. It was the last one. I went to a GameStop just to look around, and I was able to find this and I snatched it. I was like, dude, nobody had this game. Like Best Buy, Target, Walmart, nobody had it. I was like, you know what? I got one of those hunch feelings. I'm like, let me just stop by this GameStop just to look. I don't know. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I just wanted to look. I don't know. I guess my gut told me, and I found it. It's the last copy they had. I snatched it, brand new. I forget how much I paid for it. I guess it was the retail price. I don't even remember, to be honest. But yeah, so I guess I was able to snag both the Capcom Fighting Collections 1 and 2 within the same month. So that's pretty cool. This one seems more interesting because this one has the Capcom vs. SNK 1 and 2, which if you try looking those games up on eBay for like the Dreamcast and the PS2, those are very expensive games by themselves on eBay. Same thing with Street Fighter Alpha 3, Project Justice, and obviously the Power Stone games. Power Stone 1 and 2 are infamously for being very, very, very expensive on the Dreamcast, on eBay. I've seen them upwards to like 120, 150 even. I don't even know if those prices were from like people hyping, Skyping the price ups, or if those are like the regular price that they go for. But I just know that regardless, these are very expensive games. So yeah, this one I'm very happy to snatch, because obviously I can see why it's sold out immediately. Same reasons. Then I was able to find this. I have a PSVR, but I was able to snap. I got the VR, very cheap, right? Way cheaper than it should have been. because there was someone else just trying to get rid of it. You know, it was mint condition with the box and everything, so it's like it's almost as if I bought it, right? You know, the box with all the inserts and the cables and whatever all that VR goes. And I tried getting like the first party Sony VR titles, you know, so stuff like Astrobot Rescue Mission, stuff like that, right? Like, you know, I have that game and I played it and it's very fun, you know. Gran Turismo Sport has a VR mode, you know, etc., stuff like that. But I've heard of this game called Moss, and I looked into it and it looked very interesting. But apparently this is one of those games that it was hard to find. And I was looking for ever since January. I was looking for this game, and I was able to find one very cheap, brand new, unopened. I guess either the person who was selling this, they were trying to get rid of, you know, their stock or whatever they were selling, or they didn't know what they were selling. So I was able to get this brand new, very cheap. Moss for the PlayStation VR is this cute little mouse. I believe it's a girl. If from what I would see, like, you know, when I was doing my research in this game. And it looks very fun, the gameplay. I can't wait to play it. It's a PlayStation exclusive game, a PS4 console exclusive, excuse me. And it just looks fun to play, and I can't wait to try it, to be honest with you. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, VR is kind of weird for me too, because I wear glasses, so I'm kind of wary about that, you know, when I put on. So I usually try to do it without my glasses. But I don't know, you know, if my blurry vision, you know, doesn't let me experience it fully or whatever. Regardless, also, I don't know how I almost forgot, I was able to find this PS4 stand, right, at the same store where I got the Parappa the Rapper game. This thing was basically nothing. He, you know, it was like I couldn't tell if he was trying to get rid of it or what, but it was very cheap. And yeah, this is nothing but just what is it called, a PlayStation 4 vertical stand, right? I have a few projects I want to do with this. You know, it's PlayStation history, so you know, and it's very cheap, so you know, might as well get it as well for the collection. But I also want to use it because I want to be able to stand an OG PS4 that I have, that I got a custom faceplate. And you guys will see it's very cool. You know, maybe one day I'll show it off and just put it as a display PS4 with the stand as well, with that custom plate. And it's a cool project to have in mind. So I think that's another reason why I snagged this, on top of it just being a cool PlayStation history stuff. But yeah, and then up next we have a PlayStation Dual Pack for Loco Roco and Patapon. Now, for those of you guys don't know, both Loco Roco and Patapon are PSP games, right? They were made from Japan Studio. You know, these are PSP games. You know, Sony IPs exclusive. But then when Sony was remastering a lot of those PSP games and putting them on the PSN store for like PS4, and then now I guess PS5, you know, they were doing physical editions, right? Because most, you know, PSN, you know, when a game goes on PSN and it's only PSN, it's most likely only digital, right? But sometimes Sony does like some, you know, physical version of it, you know, similar to when Xbox 360 back in the day, they would do the Xbox Live Arcade like compilation disc. And it's like, okay, now, so if you want to get those games, those Xbox Live Arcade games are only digital, you want to get them physical, now's your chance. It's kind of like that. So this is basically like that, like a dual pack of those two games. Unfortunately, you know, only in Japan and only in you know, Southeast Asia and stuff. So I had to import this. I imported it from, was it eBay? No, it wasn't PlayAsia. It was most likely eBay. I imported the PlayStation 4 Patapon and Loco Roco, and yeah, this is whoever took care of this, bro. They did a phenomenal job, bro. Usually with like cardboard boxes and stuff, they would have like dents and stuff. This thing has nothing, bro. The game, everything is perfect. These are the English Chinese version, so I guess like the Hong Kong and you know, version. So both the covers are in English, because that's the reason why I did not want to get a Japanese version, because I kind of want to have the spine to say in English, right? Like Loco Roco, and the titles too, right? It says Loco Roco and Patapon here in English. because if it wasn't if I got the Japanese version, it would have sent in Japanese. But regardless, they're region free, so it didn't matter. So I guess it's just a me thing, for like aesthetic. I don't know. I would want it to be uniform and just say it all in English. So I guess that's the reason why I went for the Hong Kong version rather than the Japanese version. Even though it's the same thing, you choose the language the moment you start the game. It's like, you want to play in this language, and it's like a whole list. I think it probably shows you like every language in the world, so it doesn't even matter. And then on top of being region free. But yeah, so that was my stuff for the video game side, right? And then I guess I'll end off in this last item right here, and it is a magazine from the PlayStation official magazine, right? From what it says here. Now, as you guys can see here, this is the LittleBigPlanet, when they feature LittleBigPlanet in August of 2008. Now, we know obviously the original LittleBigPlanet came out in October of 2008, but I think this was when they were like releasing a lot of info and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. I was able to find this. It's nice because I was trying to see if a Game Informer one had like LittleBigPlanet or anything Sackboy related, like in the front cover, and it was like the main game of the month. But no, obviously the Game Informer had like a review section when they reviewed LittleBigPlanet, 1, 2, 3, Carding, the other ones when they came out, but not when it was in the front page. So that that's unfortunate. And then unfortunately, Game Informer 2, but when Astrobot came out, they had shut down. But I had a feeling that if they were still around when Astrobot came out, like that September of 2024 month would probably had Astrobot in the front, and it would have looked super cool. So that was unfortunate, right? It's like, damn, they had to be shut down with my favorite game of last year was coming out. But anyway, so it's pretty cool, and I've been getting hit with nostalgia waves just reading this. Stuff like Metal Gear Solid 4 and games like Modern Warfare, GTA 4. You guys ever play Valkyria Chronicles, BioShock, Resistance 2, stuff like that. You guys can see here. So it's pretty cool reading these. Hit me nostalgia waves, so that's pretty cool. Who knows, maybe I get some more magazines here or there. But yeah, I bought this, I found it on eBay for very cheap. I think it must have been like $6 or something. I forget. But yeah, other than that, I guess you guys heard me ramble enough for 20 minutes about my collection. That I was, the games that I added, to my collection. My retro pickup, I guess retro and modern, because you got here modern stuff, the Switch too. So yeah, my gaming pickups, let's just call it that. My gaming pickups of June 2025. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys interested in any of these items? I recommend picking them up. Obviously the Youtooz, I say do it sooner rather than later. Some of these games look interesting to you, go ahead and do it. Do you guys have a Switch 2? Let me know what you guys think of the Switch 2. I'm liking it, but also it has flaws, and I'm not blind to those flaws. I'm not like one of those blind Nintendo fanboys you see on Twitter where they say this is like perfect. It's not perfect. I love it, but it's not perfect. It has many issues. But I'm gonna go play the Switch 2, once I'm done with this video. So yeah, peace out, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you guys later.